that the principle of innocent until proven guilty is almost like a fundamental human right. And nobody, no office holder, no authority should attempt to abuse that principle, innocent until proven guilty. Because by the time you finish listening, you will see. That's why in law they say auditory pattern. Listen to both sides. No, don't take one side. But propagandists are with us, and they are useful because they help us to laugh and to think and to engage. So propagandists are always going to run things in one direction for political gain and political end. That's okay. But time is always the tester. Time is the common denominator. In the fullness of time, therefore, everything will unravel. And then we'll all come back and say that, oh, we shouldn't have. The other day, no less a person than Martin Amidu was now critical of the killings of 1979, 50, 60 years after. Martin Amidu, a Keda, was expressing, and in defense of Cecilia Dapaah, was now saying that we should be careful that we don't do what happened in 79. These are the same events that he supported. All the Keda supported, let the blood flow. But several years later, he comes to the conclusion that that was wrong, because sometimes people act on emotion, and generations follow so that we can learn from the generations past of what has happened. That's why Martin Amidu is cautioning us, don't let this Cecilia Dapaah matter become like the 1979, where we caught people and without evidence, and in this charade, we shot them and killed them, that they were corrupt. It turned out that they were not corrupt at all. It turned out that the people who actually killed them became much more corrupt. Hello. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Good Evening Ghana. Tonight we are coming from remote broadcast position, but it's still the same Good Evening Ghana, and everyone in the studio is ready, and you're going to see them very soon. We have a prayer to make tonight, and because of that, we want to start this edition with a prayer. What is our prayer tonight? Our prayer tonight is for democracy. Our prayer tonight is for rule of law. Our prayer tonight is for the principles of law. Our prayer tonight is for successful politics in Ghana. So we start with a prayer.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thou your name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as forgiving those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
And so the prayer for the rule of law by Paul Adumoche, and of course, the chairman of the Ashanti Regional New Patriotic Party, Chairman Wuntumi, they're giving us the prayer. Well, this is Good Evening Ghana. Let me take the special opportunity to welcome you. And we will be joining in very soon, I think 5 minutes past 10. Paul Adumoche, as he stated earlier, from a remote position to be presenting to you details and his analysis of brouhaha, if you want to call it, the brouhaha between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and Cecilia Dapaah. You've seen the ruling of the court, and you've seen the position also of Good Evening Ghana. We have been very consistent in our position. It's not about the defense for one particular party, but about ensuring the rule of law, ensuring that everybody holding a position here in the country, all institutions within the country, go according to their mandate as required of them. We are happy to welcome you, of course. My name is Kwesi Afriye, and I'm doing the show tonight with Paul Adumoche. He is from a remote position, and I am sitting in here right here in the studio with the technical team and everybody else. So you want to stick and stay with us. Tonight, it promises to be a very exciting one. We are doing that of Cecilia Dapaah and Office of the Special Prosecutor. We'll do a bit of sports, the Paralympic team and the association's grand meeting, which is going to happen here in Ghana, I think, from this Saturday. And we'll be looking at Gabon, what's happening in Gabon, and the call for people to react, the call for people to clap, the call for people to make noise. He says, make noise. Make noise. We'll be asking you what you make of it. And of course, we'll be asking your opinion on what you make on African leaders. And I've seen some data outside, people comparing ages and so on and so forth of at what age do people have the opportunity to lead as presidents of the African continent. We can run away from that, but we can't also run away from the fact that in other parts of the world, there are very aged people. In the US, we have something of that sort happening. So if you are putting across your opinion, it should be across for the entire world. And then the fist between Boakye Ejakun and the last two for the fifth position, Ade Nimo. Now it is not against Ade Nimo again. It is against the leadership of the New Patriotic Party. Boakye Ejakun has expressed his dissent against the decision of the NEC, that's the National Executive Committee of the ruling New Patriotic Party, about its decision to move away from another election to select one of them to be the fifth contestant in the flag bearership contest, which is set for the 4th of November this year. Boakye says the party is bending the rule of law, and so he's no more going. The party has responded. I'm going to go to the screen now, and remember that tonight, 10:05, we'll be bringing you Paul Adumochi again from his remote position. He's gathering all his data and he's gathering all the points to make his analysis tonight. You would want to stick and stay with us and watch that part of it. For now, I'll join Koko Apraku on the screen. Of course, when it's Good Evening Ghana, we have touch screen for you. So tonight, we are going to do a bit of analysis, what has happened right from yesterday, I think about 4 p.m., through to maybe 8 or so. National Executive Committee of the New Patriotic Party had their meeting. They had all the back and forth and all the decisions to make. And at the end of the day, we had the General Secretary, Justin Kudia Frimpong, putting up a letter to the entire public through the media that the decision of the NEC is that the NEC is going to now make the selection and not another elections again. Koku, good evening, welcome.
Good evening.
Let me ask you what exactly is happening so far.
So as at now, we are no longer in limbo. We are certain as to what is going to happen because Honorable Boakye Ejakun has pulled out of the race and the party has actually accepted his decision to pull out and has wished him well in his endeavor. So as it stands now, the five are the Vice President, His Excellency Mahamudu Bawumia, Honorable Kennedy Ejapong, Honorable Alan Trematin, Usefrie Akuto, Honorable Usefrie
Planting for Food and Jobs.
Planting for Food and Jobs. And then now, Adai Nimo, who has been in the race for quite some time, or several other races in the past.
But it was quite shocking. I mean, for those of us who follow politics, somebody like Adai Nimo, I've spoken to lots of media men, lots of pressmen, lots of political addicts who felt that Adai Nimo wasn't going to make it. They were tipping Kobne Japan, for example, to be in the top five. Are you surprised?
I am, actually. I am. Even though we predicted that Adai Nimo would be in the top 5 on this show. It was a prediction, the blind historian was here. It was a prediction I don't think I sided with, but it seems he was right. I was tipping Kwabena Japan over because of how Kwabena Japan has been a bit more vocal, his role in the MPP in the past, former General Secretary and all. But it seems the party wants what the party wants. And
Right. So what's happening so far? Yesterday they had the NEC meeting.
Yes.
People were anticipating a runoff. For Adai Nimo and Boakye Ejakun. Others were expecting one of them to resign like he has done, but of course not in a very good news. What's happening?
Well, so the initial decision was that the party would allow so generally we all knew there was going to be a runoff. The question was who were going to be the voters going to be engaged in the runoff? Is it going to be the special
delegates
again, which is 956, or there's going to be a special selection as to who would be in the running to pick? The National Council picked said that it was the top brass of the party that would make the selection and not necessarily all 956 persons. On their side, the justification was that going back to the grassroots, I won't say grassroots per se, but going back to the 956.
The special delegates
that
have the right to vote and select the top 5. Going back to them.
Per Article 12.5 of the Constitution of the MPP. Going back to them would have been a bit cumbersome. The reason being that, one, they are scattered all across the country, and the party had already decided at Alisa Hotel that the election was not going to be at one place. This means that elections were going to be held in
all the 17 regional polling centers or election centers.
To pick, the top 5, it would not really be expedient, particularly when it looks as if they would not really be in the front running to get. I mean, we all know those in the front running are Mahamudu Bawumia, Alan Chamating, and then Honorable Kennedy Japan. And so that was the decision.
But there are, we have been saying this. If you go to the grassroots, if you go to the ground,
yes,
one of the surprising turnout was Kennedy Japan overtaking Honorable Alan Chamating. Yes. Some of these believe that they have the grassroots, and so it is not the 956 people that are going to determine their fate or the fates of the people, the masses and the grassroots that want to vote for them.
That is true. That is very true. But the one thing we also have to consider is politics is top to bottom, as it's also, horizontal. And so you need the support of the top brass. You may have the grassroots all right, but if the ministers, if the party executives, you ride on the party to go to the Jubilee House, and therefore you need their support. So their support is very important. And if we are being honest, I mean, the 956 is simply a reflection of the support the grassroots had. If you look at 2014, what we saw with Adainimo again, Honorable Alan Chemating, and then His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, you observe that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo led in the first round, the Super Delegates Congress, and then Alan followed Adainimo. Others dropped off after the selection by the delegates. And then, so it showed simply that it seemed
a reflection of the grassroots. But there are dynamics. I mean, for people like regional executives to be voting, these are people who have gone for contest on their own with these same delegates who have voted for them to become the regional executives. So they have some level of control. But there is also the perception that these are people who have made it, gotten appointments and are enjoying. So they are taking their decisions on their own. Is that the case?
Well, we cannot really speak on their behalf. What we can say is that these things happen and these things are politics. And so as a political person or as a politician, you have to know how to play around the numbers. You have to know how to play around the people and try and get them on board. As it stands now, it seems that there has been a bit of alienation between Honorable Boakye Jarko and their party. And he is relatively young, if you look at persons running for president. He was born in 1956, just 1 year shy of Ghana's independence. And so it is possible for him to go again and again and again. I do not think his decision was the best as a result of the fact that it is possible next time the party will say, well, when you had the chance to make sure that we have a smooth run, exactly, you came out and it was.
But he's riding on whether the decision is legal or not. Is it legal?
The decision, well, the party has the party's executive council committee has the right to regulate how
the
elections are run. However, Article 12, Clause 5 of the NPP Constitution states that where there are more than 5, it is the special delegates, and it lists who the special delegates are. So former presidents, regional executives, ministers of state, constituency chairman, on and on, are the ones who are supposed to select the top 5. And so there is a sort of rancor between both sides. One saying, follow the law to the letter, and the other saying, we have to give purposive construction to the Constitution, because constitutions are living documents. If an interpretation of the Constitution will unduly burden the party, then the party, I believe, has every right to interpret it, not break it. Interpret it in a way, because if you look at Article 12, Clause 5 of the NPP Constitution, the intendment of Article 12.5 was to reduce them from, if they had more than 5, to 5 by a process. The process has been, followed. The process has
we couldn't get the 5.
But we couldn't get the 5. So the question is, should we go through that process again
to still select the 5 now?
Yeah, I mean, we already have 4. So to select one person who would fall in and now make the set 5. Right. Will it be fair to the party? Will it be cost efficient? Will it be reasonable? Will it unduly burden people? And even we have to look at the potential of division in the party. Because even though democracy or internal democracies are very important, we also have to remember that internal democratic processes such as elections may cause certain rifts. We saw what happened in Wale to the chair, the constituent, the representative of Honorable
Alan Chema,
which is quite unfortunate. But I mean, it happened. And so, are we allowing, or is the party opening itself
again for these kind of attacks?
And so, these are all the questions that have to be answered. I think there should have been an attempt to wash their linen in private before this sort of bloody divorce.
but I mean, the consequence and the impact for him. There are other people who would also think that, well, in any case, he didn't go to the Supreme Court or he didn't go to court.
Yeah.
He had the option of going to
Yeah.
court. And so if he wants to come back later on, he would say, I resigned for peace, even though I didn't like what was going on, so I had the opportunity to express my dissent, which I did.
Yeah.
But I made way for peace.
Yes.
Would he be able to make that case?
Honestly, I do not think so. Because if you look at one thing that worked for Honorable Alan Chema, it was that seminal speech he gave at Legon at the Congress in 2008, where he said that even though they could go for a runoff, he's going to allow his older brother. And
that's the Drew Meso campaign, where the Drew Meso campaign.
Yes, that is where it came from. That if he has done so in the past, then he has a basis to claim it in the future. So there's a difference between following the law to the letter and also being a bit more politically correct or politically practicable. He could have resigned, given all that. He could have disagreed in private, resigned and said that, well, we want our party to be peaceful, united.
I disagree, but of course
so and so, and then use that as a basis to come back and say, I have strong educational credentials. I mean, we all know his background and how intelligent he is, and come back and say that, well, I did this for peace, I did this for unity. Give me the chance. But now it seems there's this sort of direct attack at the party. He has every right to do so. He has every right to do so in a democracy. It's his right to do so. But the fact that you have a right to do something does not necessarily mean
you have to go ahead and do it.
Or it will benefit you. And so I think these are things they may resolve or they may attempt to resolve. But
have you gone through the state? I don't know if we have it here.
We have the statement from the party. So if we could put up the statements from the
have you gone through it? And what do you make of it? The tonation, of course, they were replying to him directly, and it came into the media because his letter or his statement
also came
into the media. And let's say we can go through this. Then you come tell us what do you think of the tonation. So this is the NPP's reply. That's of course from the hierarchy of the New Patriotic Party to Honorable Boakye Ejakun, who wanted to be a flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, of course, into the 2024 election to come up against John Dramani Mahama, who is contesting on the NDC's ticket. I'm sure if we have time, we'll do a bit of analysis of which of them will be able to match John Mahama after November 4th. But let's quickly go through this. It says the New Patriotic Party is in receipt of a letter dated 31st day of August 2023 from Mr. Boakye Chematin Ejakun, which has become the subject of public discussion. The party wishes to clarify and address the concerns raised by Mr. Ejakun regarding the recent decision taken by the National Council of the party to break the tie in the special electoral college elections. The party firmly asserts that the decision taken was fully within the framework of the party's constitution. So the party believes that this was within the framework of their constitution and they haven't flouted any regulation or any law, as Honorable Boakye Ejakun is putting it. And it's grounded in the utmost interest of the well-being of the party, of course, which you explained that you don't necessarily have to go to the letter of the constitution, but in the ground interest of the party. In his letter, Mr. Ejakun alleged that the National Council's decision to break the tie in the special electoral college elections is unconstitutional. This is the case of Honorable Boakye Ejakun. However, the party would like to state categorically that this allegation is unfounded and not in accordance with the provisions of the NPP constitution. At least, what I do know is that the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Justin Kodua Frimpong, who supervises all of these things and makes sure from the elections committee and so on and so forth, is a lawyer. And so before anything of this sort comes out, he himself and his team will have vetted
Yes.
the procedures, and of course, you are the lawyers, the things that go into it.
Yes.
Before the letter comes out. So he must have gone through
Yes.
the letter from the elections team and the NEC and all of
Yes.
that before he puts it out.
Yes, and match it up with the constitution to see if...
And his director of administration, Yamua, as well, I don't know if he's a lawyer, but of course, talks like a lawyer. He does things in consultation with lawyers and so on and so forth. So they are confident here that it is very constitutional and in line with the framework of the NPP's constitution. So at a meeting held on the 30th of August, which is yesterday at Alisa, which you explained, the National Council meticulously examined all aspects of the matter, taking into account the pertinent provisions of Articles 10.3.1, which you have stated early on, and 18 of the NPP Constitution. It must be noted that no runoff is explicitly provided for under the NPP Constitution in relation to the election in question. We'll come to you for interpretation of that. The guidelines formulated by the Presidential Elections Committee provided for a runoff, but did not indicate the modalities, for such a runoff. Therefore, the National Council, pursuant to Article 10.3.1, again, is clothed with the power to come up with the modalities to break the tie. For the avoidance of doubt, Article 10.3.1 provides that there shall be a National Council which, subject to the decisions of the National Annual Delegates Conference, shall direct the affairs of the party between the meetings of the National Annual Delegates Conference, and for this purpose may give such directives to the national chairperson as may be considered necessary for the well-being of the party. I think we can end this and come back to you for interpretation of the 10.3.1 and what it says and what the General Secretary of the party says.
So Article 10.3, as I said, that Article 12.5 says where there are more than 5, we go for a super delegate congress to reduce the number. Now, the Constitution does not specifically mention a runoff, a procedure for runoff. And so what the Constitution did was that obviously we cannot legislate every single thing
of the process.
So if you look, for instance, in the Constitution allows for bodies to have their own rules. For instance, the Electoral Commission has CIs, what we call constitutional instruments. The Attorney General's office has LIs, what we call legislative instruments. And these are laws these are rules and regulations that these officers use to regulate the specific and minute, permutations and actions that happen in their office and regulate how they come about. The same thing has happened here. Not everything concerning the NPP can be regulated by the Constitution, or else the size of the Constitution would have been like this. And so, power is given to the committee responsible for the conduct of the election. Power is given to the National Council to regulate these affairs. Now, Honorable Boakye Agyarko is arguing that no, Article 12.3 says that when we are more than 5,
let's have a process to select the
delegates, which has been done, which was done last weekend. The party is saying that, well, despite the fact that the Constitution provided for this, the Constitution did not provide for instances of runoff. Therefore, we would come up with rules to regulate how the runoff should be carried on. And the rules they adopted was that they would let the National Council or some executives undertake the selection process or the voting pick between Adainimo and Honorable Boakye Agyarko and not go back to the Congress, not go back to the special delegates, the 956, who are scattered all across the country for obvious reasons, as we have stated earlier. Division of the party, costs, time, it goes on and on and on. And so these are the policy considerations the party took the decision on. And that is essentially what is ongoing as at now.
Are you anticipating Boakye Agyarko to come back with a reply to this letter? Because they replied directly to him?
To be frank, if I was him, or if I were him, I would not reply. I would not reply. Let sleeping dogs lie, because these are those you started with, and these are those. And therefore, if you have any, it's not even a case per se. He may decide to take it to the High Courts for interpretation of normally the High Court has power to interpret the rules of organizations, associations, and things like that. Whereas the Supreme Court is strictly for the constitution of the whole country. And so he may, for the purpose of the future, take that route just to show. And this has happened before in the MPP, where people have actually taken internal matters to courts for purpose of interpretation. Look at Rosemary Ekwam versus Kwame Pienim, where Mr. Pienim, who had attempted to overthrow the royalist regime, was taken to court for an interpretation as to whether or not an individual who has attempted treason before can run for the office of the president. And the court held that no, they couldn't. And that was what gave way for John Ajekun Kufuor, because it seemed Kwame Pienim was in the lead to take the party. And this happened in 96, thereabouts. And so these are all the considerations that can be. It's not as if it hasn't happened before. It may happen again. And he can use the appropriate routes.
I may have to let go of you now, but we are following this very, very keenly. And we're asking you tonight, of course, if you're watching us, if you're a lawyer as well, you may want to send us your opinion. What do you think of the reply of, I wanted to say the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, lawyer Justin Kodia Frimpong, but of course the entire leadership of the party, the hierarchy of the New Patriotic Party, quoting the articles and saying that what they have done is in line with the constitution of the New Patriotic Party, and they have not contravened any regulation. You may want to send in your text messages and your concerns and your opinion on what we are discussing now. Tonight, I have told you that we are doing the show with Paul Adomoche from a remote position. He's joining us very soon, I think about 5 minutes past 10, to do an analysis of the court's ruling of the Office of the Special Prosecutor versus Madam Cecilia Dapaah. So pretty shortly, he will be joining us, and I'll be taking you to Gabon as well with our political correspondent, Bello, to analyze the situation there. Gabon president says people should get out and make noise. Go out, make noise, make noise. And we'll come back into the studio for some Paralympic sports discussions. And of course, when we do the Gabon as well, we'll have a security expert joining us. And did you monitor the proceedings in Parliament today? And did you hear COP Mensah?
Yes.
You watched
Mensah and Bugrinabu.
You watched it?
Yes.
And it's become, for me, I think it's becoming a little murky.
Yes.
For the security of the nation, for everything.
Yes.
It's becoming a little
the fact that powers that are exercised by the president, some people can claim to exercise them, can remove the IGP, and now they are claiming it was doctored. The whole thing is a bit... But I mean, these are preliminary stages, so we have to wait and see. And because it's an ongoing process, we also do not want to sidestep or go ahead of Parliament.
Right. So there are two things the committee is supposed to do. First of all, verify the veracity of the tape, and then secondly, go through the investigative processes of whatever.
Recommend whether punishment, prosecution
has to be meted out to
him,
the people.
COP.
All right. Right. So I'll go back to my seat, and when I go, I'll take a quick break. But when I come back, I may go to Gabon, or if it's time for Paul to join, I'll connect with him right away, and we'll get him to join us. So let me go on the break now. When I come back, I'll tell you about some of our sponsors. This is Good Evening Ghana. Paul Adomoche is in a remote position. Wait for him. We'll be bringing you a detailed analysis of the ruling on Madam Cecilia Dapaah versus the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Stay with us.
Here, TV, fridge, freezer, air condition, gas cooker, washing machine, smartphone, sound system, water dispenser, microwave, blender, rice cooker, kettle, and iron. Seven Hisense smartphone is a titi so more than a Hisense factory direct promo. It's in your madada noa. Emma light bill ekuno. Fasi baby. Never jifufro. Everything 28 August. I copy him 2nd September. Be way showroom no. Saturday at no. Sana yet on. Wait dear. Ya tete swabro so. Who? High sense. Everyday prices for everyday people.
Inside Black Star Press Limited, grow inside the invective minds, evolving concepts and the creative trends. The printing press you need now. Witness the beauty, diversity, and natural wonder with our works. Inside Black Star Press Limited, in association with Lionhead Group of Companies. Call us now on 0200-880-000 for all your print works. Black Star Press Limited, a worldwide reputation for quality printing.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say. But as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in, day out. With portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVs, you are assured of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It's a self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility. Call it luxury, but it's a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home. It's affordable and can be installed in just 3 days without modification to your existing building. It's however easier to incorporate it at the construction stage. We also have traditional Fuji elevators and escalators for your high-rise buildings and malls. Visit Lifts and Elevators Company Limited at Sakumono for your elevators nationwide. For free consultation to call or WhatsApp us on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators, the elevator people.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
My son, there's more blessing in giving than receiving. When you fear for you and cover the makers in
The pneumatological aberration of the Lord revealed unto me this night that me and my household should go out into the world and bless the world.
Makers Electronics Company Limited. I'm up to 67% discount. Our selected appliances.
This is what I call quintessential immaculatability.
The Makers Electronics Company Limited. Ewo Taifa Burkina Highway. Amasama Zongo Junction. Edike Pharmacy Dine. Oyer Fateman Boga Junction. Ashaman Valco Flat. Kumasi. Ahinema Kokobin. Asafu Buachi Hospital Junction. Takradi. Kuma. Number 9 Market.
Chairman and Dad about the Makers Blessing Attack program.
From 0552 222 253 and 0552 222 254. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is John, and this is my long-time crush, my cookie dipped in strawberry yogurt. On this scorching hot afternoon on our way back from a long job hunt, we met this good Samaritan who offered us
6 weeks later.
Play a special wedding reception for our bride and groom.
And there she is, my cookie, dipped in someone else's yogurt.
Who holds the moolah, holds the shot. Play game by games, the easiest lottery to play and win. Big phone numbers from 0 to 9 up to 3 times daily to become one of our daily lucky winners. Dial *946# to play now. Or you can also play online at www.gamepackgames.com. Game Park is regulated by the National Lottery.
Right, so you're welcome back from the break. Let me quickly remind you that we have some few minutes to join Paul from his remote position. Tonight the show is 2 hosts. Paul Adumache himself from a very remote position, and of course, I have joined him right from his studio at Rage here in Accra. He will be doing an extensive analysis of the ruling of the case between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and that of Honorable Cecilia Dapaah. The position I stated early on has been consistent here on Good Evening Ghana. And of course, we'll bring you the details, but the position now is that the court also believes that the Office of the Special Prosecutor could be better in the way they handle some of the things. We'll bring you those details. But before I come back to the rest of the things that we are doing, and let me also remind you that we'll go to Gabon with Bello tonight, and we'll do some sports as well tonight. But let me do this quickly. I'll give you some text messages, and then we'll come back to the studio. Enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say, but as humans, aging and physical infirmity stands our way of enjoying our mansions and homes. It often becomes challenging, if not impossible, to use our stairways day in and day out. Worry no more, because with portable American pneumatic vacuum elevators, PVEs, you are sure of unlimited enjoyment of your mansions and homes. It is a simple-to-use self-supported elevator for vertical movement of humans and goods at homes and offices. The original comes in 3 custom-made models with wheelchair accessibility to choose from. You may call it luxury, but it is a necessary imperative for vertical mobility. Do not let aging or infirmity limit you. Get one for your easy vertical mobility at home or office. It's affordable and can be installed within 3 days with modification to your building. Visit Lifts and Elevators Ghana at Sakumono for your solutions and free consultations. Call us now on 0200-535-515, or you can email us at elevatorsgh@gmail.com. Now, it's the Makers Electronics Blessing Attack promo. Rush to the Makers Electronics Company Limited for up to 67% discount on selected appliances such as Samsung, LG, Moved, NASCO, TCL, Media, and Toshiba. Quality, but affordable with 2 years manufacturer defect warranty. Visit our showrooms, Taifa Burkina Highway, Amasaman Zungu Junction, Oyarifa Teman, Boga Junction, Kaswa New Market, Ashaiman Valco Flat, Kumase Ahinema Kokobin, Takradi Ifyukuma number 9 Market, and you can call us on 055 222 22253 or 055 222 22254. The Makers Electronics Company Limited, large and in charge with quality but affordable home appliances and consumer electronics. Terms and conditions apply. Inside the Black Star Press Limited, we grow businesses inside the inventive minds, evolving concepts and the creative trends. Black Star Press Limited is a printing press you need now. Witness the beauty, diversity, and natural wonder with our works. Inside Black Star Press Limited, in association with Lionhead Group of Companies, call us now on 0200-880000 for all your print works. Black Star Press Limited, worldwide reputation for quality printing. I have told you early on that tonight we are talking about Gabon, we are talking about COP, Mensah and his hearing today at the Parliament House. And of course, Gabon, Bello, are you ready? Are you here? So I'll come back to you pretty shortly. Bello is our political correspondent. He's on standby. He's well prepared with the information from Gabon. And of course, the uprising catching the African continent. We'll come back and I'll join him there to do an analysis of it. But for now, let me quickly run to Fatih and see what's happening. Let's begin with you, Fatih. What are people saying?
Okay, thank you. This is coming from Martin Awuza, and he says Mr. Jacko is a member of the NPP's party and not just an ordinary member. He must come clearly on the position of the party's constitution. This coming from Berima Kweku, and he says Alan John Kwejo Chairmanton will succeed regardless of the hostilities. Coming from Ishon, he says the decision of the NPP NCE is in the right direction. I think Honorable Jacko goofed with his take on this decision. A simple withdrawal can save everyone and make things go smoothly. Coming from Bright Adisari, says the National Council represents the entire NPP community, hence they can act on behalf of the entire party. Lastly, coming from Emmanuel, says those supporting Bawumia, what will be Bawumia's message to Ghanaians after all the mess he has caused with Nanado? Antoinette.
So we have this from Bright Edu Asari again. He says the special prosecutor should be fired. He is not fit for the office. Aggrieved citizens can sue the office for damages. Nicholas Mainu says the only thing I'm not happy about is the disqualification or disenfranchising of some of the members of the super delegate and limiting the delegates to well-known members who can easily predict their voting patterns. Now, Berima Kweku Janku says the current crop of leadership thinks that Alan will outshine them if he gets the nod to become a flag bearer and president with his constituency business ventures, monthly stipends, SNIT payments, the industrialization agenda, and above all, the great transformational plan and jobs for Ghana. He also says that Alan John Kwejo Chairmanton will succeed regardless of the hostilities that you said that. Junior Akbar, watching us from Tamale, says the National Council has made the right decision. There is no time for us to continue wasting time because we already have a candidate and he is the best among the rest. DMB is the best man for the job. Choosing the flag bearer, you must choose who Ghanaians want, and that person is Ken. This is what Emmanuel Jamin thinks. He says, what will be Bawumia's message to Ghanaians after the mess he has caused with his boss? The National Council has been given delegated power to decide on behalf of the people. This is what Bright Edu Asari says. And lastly, Berima B.A. Kwamoa says, Ken has lost my vote due to the negative character he showed on Saturday. I think he needs to learn how to be a leader. Angelo, what do you have first?
Let's Angelo.
Yeah, so we've got this message from Prince Nice. He says, kindly tell Mr. Showdown and Mr. Adrumusu to come back and support the party instead of wasting their time and money. Indeed, many will pay political school fees. And this is from Coleman. He says that the OSP himself has been given a showdown. Let's continue with the programming.
Right, so I have about one or two here. And in Shaba Anelka, from Ashaiman constituency, AKE Dr. Baomi Abeba says, case closed. Thank you, Papa Jaco. You made it simple, crowd. It's time Dr. Baumia wins the 4th November election in Shaba Anelka. Nana Ekwamwa Boatin, aka Dr. Baumia, is coming. Says, good evening, Akwesi. Prophet Paul have demonstrated his in-depth knowledge and understanding of our laws, and his analysis are always on point. A very special greetings to Jefferson Saki, Deputy Director of Communications of the Office of the President, and the MPP parliamentary who follow for Ablekuma Central. So Nana Ekwamwa Boatin sent in that one. He says, hi boss, please, my daughter watches your programs every Tuesday and Thursday. She won't let me sleep. Kindly arrange, well, we want a meeting for her to meet Paul. I'm going to tell Paul right after here. You say her name is Jennifer Fusia Kese. Jennifer will arrange the meeting for you to be able to meet Paul. So, Kobe, thank you very much. We'll do that for you. And this is Good Evening Ghana. I told you that 5 minutes past 10 will get you Paul Adumoche from his remote position. We are still setting our cameras, and the technical team is taking position to go live to Paul Adumoche to talk to us, of course. You know how consistent he's been about the issues of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and especially that of Madam Cecilia Dapaah. But for now, let me go to the screen and join our good fellow, Bello, who is here to talk to us about Gabon. He says people should get out and make noise. Go out, make noise, make noise. What's happening?
That's the irony of the issue. He shut down the internet and prevented the people from talking and amplifying their voices.
And now he's asking people to take over the internet and make noise.
The level of dissolution and perhaps oblivion in Gabon, because he's either out of touch with the reality that he thinks the noise outside there is a show of support rather than a show of opposition. But then, before I proceed, there is this, one of his analyses, Ali Mazrui once stated that if African leaders don't attend to the needs of their people, African youth would vote with their legs, meaning they will migrate outside the continent. There will be a lot of brain drain. But quite interestingly, the African youth are voting with their guns and their voices. And we've seen coup d'etats across board. And that is equally influencing the position of EU and ECOWAS. And when you look at, I have two communiques here.
Yes.
And when we go through it, you begin to see the difference.
Well,
but you see, ordinarily, one will condemn a coup d'etat. But personally, I think this is the most legitimate and most sensible coup d'etat on the continent so far.
Is it because the youth? Is it because, for example, in Gabon, the people are jubilating outside?
No, the president has been incapacitated since 2018 when he had stroke.
Yes.
He's paralyzed. I mean, what is he doing in office?
But did they have to go through the barrel of the gun?
Well, if, what do you call it, Thomas Jefferson once said, if injustice becomes the law, the rebellion is, what do you call it, I can't remember that quote, but he said rebellion is a duty, right? And then if you look at Algeria, we had a similar situation. Abdulaziz Bouteflika was forced to resign. What is Omar and Ali Ben Bongo still doing in office? I mean, I quite agree with this coup, obviously, in as much as I cherish democracy. But then if you look at ECOWAS' position, mind you, Gabon is also not in West Africa. It's a Central African country. So
so it's not an issue with West African countries.
But then it is also, if you look at ECOWAS' position, they are still trying to limit the damages or create the presence of further coup, or we call it domino effect, when countries share the same feature. A ripple effect could just
go through all of those countries.
So if you look at AU's, there was this fake report of agreement between ECOWAS and the junta in Niger. So ECOWAS Commission attention has been drawn to a report of so-called ECOWAS proposed transition time frame for Niger. This report, which is in French and supported carried by AFP, is false and should be treated as fake news. The demand of authority of ECOWAS head of state and government is clear. The military authorities in Niger must restore constitutional order immediately by immediately liberating and reinstating His Excellency President Bazoum. Meaning the threat of force is still on the table.
Yes.
They're still trying to exhaust, the diplomatic channel. But then it also tells you how on nerve ECOWAS itself is about the coup d'etats.
They are sitting. So I have listened to people, and of course, Kwesi Pratt today in some lecture said he is expecting 4 others to go down before the end of the year.
Well, some countries have the same features, but
of course.
But you see, for the Anglophone West African countries, we may not see a coup d'etat. But mind you, NSAS protests in Nigeria, as you call it, in a can worm. One incident would trigger a whole lot of protests across Anglophone countries. And then if you look at AU's position in condemning this coup, it's quite mild. Because they themselves understand the reality on the ground that the president is a bit incapacitated. So in as much as they want the constitutional avenue to be used, they really understand the demands of the people. So if you look at, I think from Addis Ababa, the chairperson of the AU Commission, Musa Faki, following with great situation in Gabon, and strongly condemns the attempted coup d'etat in the country as a means out of the current post-electoral crisis. He strongly recalls that it constitutes a flagrant violation of legal and political instruments of African Union, including the African Charter on Elections, Democracy and Governance. He further calls on the National Army and Security Forces to adhere strictly to Republican vocation and to guarantee the physical integrity of the President of the Republic, members of his family, and those of the it goes on and on. But then, let's ask ourselves a simple question. Has AU ever held any country account to this so-called charter they are mentioning here?
Do they have the balls to be able to do that?
That's the problem, the lack of political will. And you see, if you crack the whip on military coups and you allow third-term presidency to just go and tolerate it, well, it's kind of create a moral problem for you. Tomorrow when you come to tell people that you are being fair, I mean, people who don't really listen to you. So AU must begin to be fair across, because I'm more familiar with the ECOWAS protocol. That uses the word unconstitutional change of government, not military coup. Because a coup can occur without the use of a gun.
Of course.
Civilians can also implement or enforce coup d'etats. So I think AU has to be up and doing. They must show that resolve to hold each other to account. But then let's go into the issue. These are some of the information flying around about the wealth of the Bongo family.
And just before you do that, I think this morning also, Paul Biya has made a reshuffle in his government.
We'll get to that place because Cameroon and Togo are on the radar.
Let me allow you then.
So these are some of the information flying around about 70 bank
how many
accounts,
years they have ruled.
But they live in luxury. That's a fact.
I saw a report on, I think, Joy FM, or one of the news portals today, and they describe where he did his video from and the kind of luxury.
But interestingly,
of course,
Gabon's population is just a little above what the other Arabian Gulf countries are.
Less than 3 million.
Yeah. And the people in the Gulf are doing very well. It tells you the level of corruption in the system, the level of mismanagement. Well, it could be a collective failure, but then it tells that there's something wrong. You can't have such a little population, very small population, sitting on a huge oil wealth, and people are languishing in poverty. And you see, when people are hungry, democracy doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So, I mean, we begin to see. But these are some list of coups across West Africa since 1991. And you could see that it is very alarming when coups begin to occur on the continent. It shows you that democracy is not really being...
So where the black is where the coups
These are the countries currently under one form of military rule or the other. Because Egypt, don't forget, Sisi came to power after overthrowing, what do you call it? Sisi overthrew Morsi in his first attempt to get to power.
Mohamed Morsi.
Yeah. And then you have Sudan, which has even become a civil war between the two allies in the first place.
Yes.
But you have in West Africa, we have Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger. And we are still counting. But then you see, it is just a map. Gabon is in Central African Republic, the Central African sub-region, which is not in ECOWAS. But then Cameroon shares a border with Nigeria, and Cameroon equally falls within the radar. So now, this is his profile.
When he was born, when he
was he was virtually groomed to succeed his father.
He was a musician at one point.
He once released an album also. But he was a foreign minister from 1989 to 1991. He was a member of parliament, a deputy in the National Assembly. He was once a minister of defense. So he was virtually groomed to succeed the father. And then he also won disputed elections in 2016. And what do you call it? there was this coup attempt in 2019. So this
which
is
failed. The failed coup attempt in 2019. That one.
But see, it failed because that was orchestrated by a fringe unit within the larger army.
Okay.
But the current, coup succeeded because the commander of the security, the Republican Guard, is actually the most powerful element of the Gabonese military. And then 2 countries are now on the radar. To be very frank with you.
Yes.
I make my prediction, it's either Cameroon or Togo.
Cameroon or Togo?
Yeah, because they have one way or the other related to Gabon. In the case of Cameroon, they equally have an alien leader, just like Umar Bongo, Ali Bongo.
Yes.
And then he's also been in power for a very long time.
Very long.
And then you could see there's a reshuffle around the system.
Just between yesterday and today, I think 3 days ago.
Probably. Every Grandpa should just go home. I mean, it's tight.
So the analysis is that he's under panic, and that's why he's doing the reshuffle.
And then if you look at Togo, also, Togo just like Ali Bongo, you call how to call succession, dynastic succession. So when you look at the issue of Cameroon having an aging leader, would force within the health condition of Ali Bongo, that could be a cause for alarm.
Right.
And if you look at the dynastic succession, and moreover, remember there was this protest in Togo, I think, a couple of years ago. That was actually one of the largest protests so far. And it nearly toppled the government until ECOWAS went there to negotiate.
Yes.
And for God knows how, he was able to realign himself. But then the reshuffle also went beyond West Africa or Central African Republic. Rwanda equally, there was this.
So I was going to come to Rwanda, but let me allow you on. And there is a reshuffle going on.
Yeah.
He comes across as a very strong, powerful man.
The
Rwanda.
Yeah, that is the very interesting part of it. Yeah, I think he's not taking chances. But if anybody has a least threat of coup hanging on his neck, is Paul Kagame. He is doing well than even most of our so-called democratically elected leaders. And the statistics are there to see.
Yes.
The Rwandan story is obvious for everyone to see. We don't need to be told.
And he's still under panic.
Well, you don't take chances. Power can be very tempting. But then, the question now is, what does this mean for Africa and then French policy in West Africa?
Okay.
For the French policy of France-Afrique, for the good or for the bad of it, some people say it's just about cultural interconnectivity, interaction, to maintain that colonial legacy. But from where I stand as a Pan-Africanist, I see it as naked robbery. And obviously, for me, to be very frank with you, we can try to be politically correct. I refuse to be on this issue. You can't continue to, control people's fortunes, their monetary policies. I mean, it is not just about the France-Afrique policy.
Yes.
That is the problem.
Yes.
We have issues of corruption in these countries. We have issues of human rights abuses. These are internal issues that may fuel, the coup d'etats across the Sahel or the Francophone zones. But the bigger elephant in the room
is France.
It's France and its policy. We can start to be politically correct, but on this issue, I refuse to be.
But the leaders of these countries have the power to, for example, if you get back into economics, you have some of these countries running a currency board, for example, to control the currencies of these countries and not having a central bank like we have in Ghana here to be able to allow people to trade anyhow, allow people to have their way out for the exchange rates and so on and so forth, or the dollar and so on and so forth. These countries should be able to take their own decision and not rely on French or France. So why is France now
at the point of giving independence, the French will call the French Union or French or so. So whilst the British willingly gave independence freely, the French were trying to, regulate or maintain a sphere of influence. But that was also very interesting because under Charles de Gaulle, I think it's Charles de Gaulle, right? Yeah, Charles de Gaulle. The French were also trying to protect or maintain a certain independence during the Cold War. They were part of NATO, trying to accept that independence. So he needed that sphere of influence. And then one of the arguments was that it was to shield French colonies from Soviet penetration. But then we have seen the death of Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
His assassination, not just his death.
Yes.
And all fingers point to France and Houphouët-Boigny. And courtesy of information we have today, we can even confirm, even the recent trial in absentia of Compaoré found him guilty. So we can virtually say that France has a hand in it. That tells you that in as much as you are you're a free country on paper,
you have
when you try to break away, there are consequences for it.
Right.
But then, for the Rwandan case, you see, he's doing well. So I understand he's trying to reshuffle. So going forward, I think what we need to do, if there are coup d'etats across the continent, it tells AU that something is wrong across the continent in terms of governance, in terms of economics, in terms of what do you call it, standard of living. I mean, the problem is just, the list goes on and on. But AU must be able to find a way to, what do you call it?
Curtail these threats that are coming.
Not just curtail the threats, but make sure that when leaders are elected, they are held to account. Sometimes you see, you could go to, the last time I had an interview with the guy from Niger, the gentleman.
Yes.
You know, he said that they took the case to ECOWAS court. It took 2 years for the ECOWAS court to come and tell them it has no jurisdiction over the case. I mean, when you do that, it's going to look as if you are favoring the leader. So we should try to make sure that African leaders are held to account when they are reported to AU institutions. After the institutions, they are there. You have the Security Council, you have the AU Judiciary, you have all of these. But then it's about enforcing the law. So we must make sure that. But
is AU, and of course, ECOWAS is going to have the political will now that we have been these tensions or uprisings across the continent?
What? Gabon's issue
with people predicting that, for example, in this year, as I stated earlier, the prediction that there's expectation of at least 4 of them.
Well, nobody is praying for a coup d'etat, but apparently when the leaders are not living up to expectation, I mean, if coup d'etat happens and it gives respite for the people, then we cannot strangulate them to tell them to accept democracy. A clear example is, you see what is going on in Senegal today.
Yes.
There's a tension between the Ousmane Sonko and Macky Sall, who is believed to be preparing himself to come for a 3rd term. And ECOWAS and AU are quiet. So if tomorrow there's a coup d'etat that gives respite to the people, and you begin to strangulate them and talk to them about democracy, it just doesn't make sense. So let's make sure that leaders are held to account by AU institutions. The protocols and conventions they've signed on must be enforced on them. Because if you don't do that, I mean, so in as much as we don't pray for a coup d'etat, I will boldly say, of all the coups on the continent, this is the most sensible one and the most legitimate one so far.
Well, it seems to have the most backing from the citizens also.
You see, and one thing we understand, once there's a coup d'etat and the people on the streets celebrating, it is popular legitimacy against legal legitimacy. And I will go for popular legitimacy. I will go for popular legitimacy when it's legal again, because if we go by legality, then Hitler is not a criminal. If we go by legality, apartheid wasn't a crime. But was it morally right?
Yeah, no, of course.
So we are condemning apartheid on morality. So we should condemn these ones also morality.
Right. So that's Bello there. Bello giving us the details of what's been happening, of course, taking us through the length and breadth of the African continent. You are still watching us live from our studios here at Rage in Accra. This is Good Evening Ghana. And I am in the studio here, and Paul Adom Ochre is from a remote position. We played to you a part of a video, and the analysis that he's going to do to you. He's ready and will be joining us pretty shortly about the case between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and that of Madam Cecilia Dapaah. Good Evening Ghana has been very consistent in our position on the operations of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and some people have also criticized how we are bent, or how we are also criticizing the modus operandi of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But that's been the ruling of the Supreme Court. I'll take some messages from Fatih and Antoinette and, of course, Angelo here. And then when we are back, if Paul is ready, we'll go to him. So you still want to stick and stay with us on the show. Of course, Paul will be joining us pretty shortly. We're waiting for him. So, Fatih, what do you have?
Okay, this is coming from Aaron Babako, and he says, the problem in Africa is leadership. We have a serious leadership crisis in Africa. Just look at the list of military coups in Africa since 2020. Very weird. And how political power can corrupt politicians and military officials that take over the political seats with the gun. I think the problem is attitudinal, which has to do with selfishness. My point is, Africa will not see or experience any lasting developmental projects if we still have strong ties with foreign powers, or if foreign influence neglects to join forces or economic ideas with her own African countries to see Africa develop in every aspect of the area. This is coming from Baluki. He says, democracy is perfect, but it's the best way to govern. Sani Abacha was and is still the most corrupt military coup leader in history. The monies he stole still today are repatriated to Nigeria. Coming from Emmanuel, he says, Paul Biya is next, either he likes it or not. Coming from Emmanuel again, he says, democracy is destroying Africa. And yeah, Antoinette, what do you have for us?
Okay. So still on the military insurgents, Baluki Mouse has something to say about what Bello said. He said, do not allow Bello to say that he supports any military coup. Again, democracy is perfect, but it's the best way to govern. Sani Abacha was and is still the most corrupt coup leader in history. Now back to the MPP National Delegate Congress. Some data say the National Council should have just called for reps, as may be determined from all the 275 constituencies, to converge at the NPP head office to vote and decide between the two aspirants and break the tie. Having only the headquarters vote would be biased, and the question is, who constitute the headquarters? So they represent the position of the entire 275 constituents, not the best of decisions taken by the executive committee. This is coming from Gasti Man. He says, the leaders and elders of the party, which is the NPP, should know that this sort of process to elect the flag bearer won't help the party in the future. They should make things simpler with boldness. We don't need all party members to contest. James Jani says this thing called the court of public opinion is a huge demon that we have to hold on in high disdain. In this so-called court, every citizen, whether trained or untrained, is a judge. These judges have no regard for the principle of innocent until proven guilty. No fair-minded Ghanaian will be surprised at the High Court's directive to the OSP to shamefully reverse its earlier action. Rule of law must always be the winner. Lastly, coming from Berima Kwejojan, who is from Asawasi, he said that President Akufo-Addo and his vice have done their part, and we thank them so much. All that we are asking and pleading is that they should go and rest peacefully, since they are tired for a fresh blood with great ideas in the person of Alan John Kojo Tremantin to come and lead Ghana. What do you have for us, Angelo?
Right. Ahmed watching us from Tamale says, we thank God the Francophone countries are waking up. The nemesis of Africa's unity and development. He says France. This is Ahmed's opinion, says, the nemesis of Africa's unity and development, France, the sponsor of overthrowing killings of our pioneer leaders, disruption of thoughts, etc., is being jilted and tossed out of Africa. And Obo from Tamale says, good evening. Will the NPP have done same if the tie included Kennedy, like trousers go shift? Well, back to you, Akwesi.
Right, so thank you very much, Angelo. I'm getting a lot of text messages also here. Okay, I will try and jump mine. But good evening to you, Nana Kwame Asafweji, Bosome Frehon. You want to contest as a member of parliament for the Bosome Frehon constituency. I'm still preparing to connect to Paul. So if you are watching us, I didn't promise you to fail. We are getting to Paul pretty shortly. But just before we do that, did you know that the first Paralympic Games is going to be held in Ghana? Is it the first? So my guest tonight is the president of the African Paralympic Committee. And he has been able to, I don't know whether to say made sure or pulled the strings or forced the entire African continent to come to Ghana. I think that's some good news for us, economically, politically, in the realm of sports and so on and so forth. So we are happy to host him here tonight, and we want to tell us a story, how he was able to do that, and maybe the challenges he's gone through, but the successes so far, to be able to pull the whole of Africa here in Ghana. And Samson Dean is the president, African Paralympic Committee. Good evening, thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Kwesi.
I have seen you on TV and seen you everywhere, but we haven't met in person.
That's true.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
let me go straight to that point. But before I do that, let me quickly ask what the Paralympic committee is about, or Paralympic Games is about.
Yeah, thank you very much. When we talk about Paralympic, we mean that persons with disabilities and impairments, and then who perform or participate or engage or train to become elite sports athletes. And Paralympic is the opposite of the Olympic that we all know about. And these are our brothers and sisters, persons who engage and participate in similar sports, be it athletics, para-powerlifting, which is a weight sport, wheelchair basketball, the basketball that we've all been watching, the Igbo colleagues have been engaging in. We have tennis with the Rafael Nadal, the Roger Federer, and all that. And then we have goalball, which is also the blind sport, who use sensitivity to targets and be able to engage in football-like mind. And we have boccia. We have a lot of variety of sports, but Ghana is able to participate in about 18 of such sports in this country.
I have one friend, I've been trying very hard to remember his name. He does these Paralympic Games. He's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And the last time I spoke to him, he showed me about 12 medals.
Yeah.
That is one, both on the international scene and here in Africa as well.
That's true. I think we have star athletes in the name of Bocho in Kegbe.
Bocho is the one I'm trying to remember.
And all that.
Bocho is my good friend.
Yes.
And I've come to the stadium to look at him exercising and training.
That's true.
And it's out of your mind.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So we are lucky as a nation, Ghana is hosting the first ever. This is the first of its kind. It has never happened. The first ever African Para Games, which will be staged from Sunday on the 3rd of September to 12th of September.
But how did you do that? How did you get it?
Yes, it's through the kind support of the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who engaged with the President of the International Paralympic Committee and gave us the assurances that the government of the Republic of Ghana will be in full support of this agenda, to be the first to host it, and also to make sure the various governments within the region will start to invest and also promote parasports.
So the Ministry of Sports believes that since you took over, you came in at 2021.
Yeah.
2021.
I won in 2021.
You won in 2021. Yes. And the ministry believes that the face of the Paralympic Games or the activities has changed.
It is an agenda where we've been able to work together with the Ministry of Sports to make sure that we change the face in Ghana and we change the face in Africa. As we speak, we have South Africa, a 40 delegation who have just arrived at the Kotoka airport. In 2 hours' time, by 2 a.m., we have Uganda, Kenya arriving at the same time. By 4 a.m., we have Algeria arriving. And these are large numbers, 85 delegation, 46 delegation, and all that. We are expected to host 22 of our African nations in Accra from tonight till Sunday morning.
But in the last 3 years, what have you been doing? Why does the Ministry of Sports think that you are progressing or you are advancing the course of?
Yes, we've been engaging. We've been planning the development of the sport in Ghana. We've been doing a lot, not only for Ghana but also for Africa, by promoting and also developing the sport. I can say that currently the sport that will be competing in the next few days will be wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, and you know of amputee football, which Ghana is currently the champion since 2021. We aim to host and win as well. So we've been doing a lot in the development aspect in Ghana, and we've been able to change the face, which is the support of the government. This is the first time the government of each nation has put in so much to make sure that this first event is held. We've been trying for 30 years to do this.
And that's why I think we are getting lots of commendations for you.
Yeah.
And that's where my point is, how are you doing that?
Yes, it's letting everybody feel involved. Letting everybody feel that, yes, it is time, let's try to do it. And there is one word the president said, which has been with myself and the Minister for Youth and Sports which I salute and respect so much. That is when we visited him, the president said, it is doable. That it is doable made us all believe that, yes, it is doable. We've had serious challenges. We've had serious challenges in getting it done. But we have defied the odds, and we are making it real. A week ago, if you ask me, I would say, yeah, it's possible. As the days go by, we get the confidence. Just this afternoon, the minister told me, Dean, we are doing it. We have to make sure we do it. The volunteers, everybody, we have put in so much energy.
Are you prepared for it? I mean, that was the
we are very much prepared. We are very much prepared.
You cannot let people go back to their countries.
Usually, these games are held that we will all converge at one place in the program where we'll have a games village. But for the first time, we are hosting such an event in such a magnitude where we are hosting over 967 officials and athletes and officials. 967.
That's an average of 1,000.
Yes. Where we will all be staying in different hotels within the country. So this is a strategy that we have adopted to host them in the hotels and also make sure that we feed them well, we give them the best of transport. Every member of the delegation arriving will be accredited. The media from Ghana, we can promise you that as I was on my way coming here, your accreditations are ready. International media, volunteers, everybody will be accredited. And this is our sport. This is what we call the first African Paralympic.
I'll come back and wrap up with you in like a minute or so. But I've told everybody that tonight the show is with Paul Adumoche, and we introduced the entire show with a video of where he is. He is in a remote position and what he's been working on so far. I want you to see the video pretty shortly. And when we come back, we'll finalize here and then go to Paul to bring us what he has on the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So you see this video.
So now the story is building up gradually. We will be able to unravel everything, and then we'll come to understand that the principle of innocent until proven guilty is almost like a fundamental human right. And nobody, no office holder, no authority should attempt to abuse that principle, innocent until proven guilty. Because by the time you finish listening, you will see. That's why in law they say audio term pattern. Listen to both sides. No, don't take one side. But propagandists are with us, and they are useful because they help us to laugh and to think and to engage. So propagandists are always going to run things in one direction for political gain and political end. That's okay. But time is always the tester. Time is the common denominator. In the fullness of time, therefore, everything will unravel. And then we'll all come back and say that, oh, we shouldn't have. The other day, no less a person than Martin Amidu was now critical of the killings of 1979, 50, 60 years after. Martin Amidu, a Keda, was expressing, and in defense of Cecilia Dapaah, was now saying that we should be careful that we don't do what happened in 79. These are the same events that he supported. All the Keda supported, let the blood flow. But several years later, he comes to the conclusion that that was wrong, because sometimes people act on emotion and generations follow, so that we can learn from the generations past of what has happened. That's why Martin Amidu is cautioning us, don't let this Cecilia Dapaah matter become like the 1979, where we caught people and without evidence, and in this charade we shot them and killed them, but they were corrupt. It turned out that they were not corrupt at all. It turned out that the people who actually killed them became much more corrupt.
So Paul is on standby now. Paul, the cameras are ready, everything is ready. Samson Dean, let me ask you my last question. What does this mean for Ghana?
Yes, it means a lot. In history, Ghana is the first to host it. Currently, as I've told you, 967 foreigners coming in and bringing in so much of the currency that we've been looking for, dollars, euros, and all that. So much of publicity that we need, that Ghana is there to make it happen.
Thank you very much. I think all of us, including the entire sports team, will be following you through this, and we want to make sure this is very successful. The way you are dedicated to it and making sure that it is successful. We will all follow through and support you as well. Samson Dean is the president of African Paralympic Committee. He's hosting the first Africa Paralympic Games here in Ghana. All of us are supporting him. Paul is ready. I would want to run to him now from his remote position. Wherever you are, tell a friend that Paul is ready with the analysis of the ruling between Cecilia Dapaah and the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Paul, good evening to you. Thank you very much. If you are listening to us, I'm sure you would want to take over now.
Okay, so welcome to the beginning of the show. And today our narrative is basically about the court matter. Maybe there'll be a sports interview, and then there'll be text messages from all our people. We are discussing the first part, this court matter, Cecilia Dapaah and the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Yes, we put up a video the other day where we mentioned to you the Cecilia Dapaah's lawyer's application in opposition of the OSP's decision to seize her accounts. We did a video on that, and we were quite critical of the methods of that the OSP had used. In doing all these analysis, viewers, it is important for us to emphasize that we do not know the origin of the money in Cecilia Dapaah's house. We do not know whether it is the money that was stolen is money that was acquired illegally or acquired legally. We do not know. The point we are making is that whether it was acquired legally or whether it was acquired illegally, the process to determine that must be lawful, legal, devoid of politics, and devoid of the extensions of personal ambition. That's the point. That's the point we try to make. That's all. We don't know whether anybody's a thief or somebody's not a thief. The court will determine that. It is in that spirit that we tackled the processes that the Office of the Special Prosecutor had used. It is in that spirit. It's not in the spirit of defending corruption, as many people have labeled us. It's not in the spirit of being excited but somebody has money. It's not in the spirit of being against somebody having money. Neither of these is correct. It is in the spirit of the process, the legal procedure. How do you determine that somebody has stolen? How do you determine something? And also, we were critical of personal ambition and the media charade and all of that. So, in coming tonight to come and emphasize the point we made and deriving satisfaction from the ruling of the court, not because somebody won or somebody lost, but the court emphasized the principles of democracy and was critical of the methods of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Tonight, we see that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has responded and they have issued a statement about what they think. Let's begin with that. Let's start with what the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Honorable Cecilia Dapaah's people are saying. And then we come to why we stand by the position that the court has taken. So, all right, let's put it out now. Let's put the Office of the Special Prosecutor document on the screen and then let's read it. It says, the Office of the Special Prosecutor commenced investigation in the third week of July 2023 in respect of suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses regarding large amounts of money and other valuable items involving Mrs. Cecilia Dapaah, a former Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources. On 31st of August 2023, the High Court, Accra, refused to grant the application of the seizure of the freezing orders on the grounds that the confirmation of seizure application was filed out of time, that the OSP did not provide any basis for the seizure and the freezing since it did not disclose the details of the transactions in the accounts, and further that the freezing order was based on public sentiment and without proper investigations. Okay, I think the OSP has captured the court's decisions correctly. They've captured the ratio decidendi of the court's decision correctly. It is interesting, though, to observe that in capturing these details, the OSP actually begins with the fact that the court said it was out of time. That's an observation we make. We will go on and read the OSP's response. Okay, it says, while the OSP respects the court's decision, it disagrees with the decision of the court. First, the OSP says, the OSP believes that the court's computation of time limitation is with respect erroneous. The OSP searched 3 private residences associated with Mrs. Dapaah over the course of 2 weeks. The searches and discovery were ongoing during that period. There is little doubt that the OSP filed this application within the statutory window once the search and discovery window is considered. I don't understand that, but let's go on. It says, secondly, the seizure by the OSP and the special prosecutor's freezing order were effectuated on the very firm basis of reasonable suspicion that the amounts and bank balances were tainted property, as Ms. Dapaah prevaricated as to the sources of the amounts she reported stolen from her residence, the amounts discovered by the OSP in her residence, and the volume of transactions in her bank accounts and investments. Okay, that's also very interesting, isn't it? OSP says that Mrs. Dapaah, when asked the question about the source, prevaricated. It means she was stumbling, she didn't know what to say, she didn't seem sure, and on that basis they were certain that the sources of the property and the money was dubious. Third, the freezing order was not based on public sentiment. Rather, it was based on the court's processes filed in the criminal matter before the Circuit Court, Accra, involving Ms. Dapaah as the complainant. Okay, so he's saying that Cecilia Dapaah and his people are saying that the order they took, the freezing order, it wasn't based on public sentiments as the court suggests, but rather it was based on the fact that Cecilia Dapaah had complained that such an amount of money was missing from her home. Further, it says the freezing order was effected to aid the investigations as required by law, not on the basis of the investigation as indicated by the court. Therefore, it cannot be said that the OSP did not carry out proper investigation to warrant the freezing order. The investigation has only commenced and it is ongoing. The OSP assures the public that it will take all necessary legal steps to ensure that the seized amounts and the balances in Ms. Dapaah's accounts and investments are neither concealed, lost, or otherwise dissipated. That's interesting. Signed by Cecilia Dapaah, Special Prosecutor, on 31st August 2023. Okay, so that's what the OSP says about this matter. That's his view of the matter. His views can be categorized into one or two or three of them. He says, for instance, that first of all, he didn't take the action based on any public sentiments and speculation, but he took the action because the complainant Cecilia Dapaah had said these things to the police, the CID, and apparently he was unaware until it was published in the media. I don't know why he didn't add that, but quite clearly he was unaware. Anyway, but he says that's the reason why he took the decision. It wasn't public. I don't know whether the court was suggesting to him the excessive publication of his action with Cecilia Dapaah in taking the media or the whole media charade. I'm not so sure whether that's what the court meant by saying that public sentiments, because if there were public sentiments about this, quite a significant part of it was occasioned by Cecilia Dapaah's behavior or misbehavior in going to Cecilia Dapaah's house with the drones and the cameras, was something that we've talked about already. If there was that, then it was his action. I'm guessing really that perhaps that's what the court is referring to, but it's not perhaps wanting to be directly critical of the office of the special prosecutor's work, as we sitting here are free to do. Maybe that's that's the reason why the court did not point directly to it. You know, the court may be suggesting that he publicizes anyway. That aside, Cecilia Dapaah also says that the monies that he found and the monies he found in Mrs. Cecilia Dapaah's house, the discoveries he made with the bank accounts and bank statements, all of those things, that he had ever questioned Cecilia Dapaah about them, and that about the sources of these accounts, and that during the questioning, Mrs. Cecilia Dapaah prevaricated. This is new information. This is information that the office of the special prosecutor could have given to the public in an earlier statement that may have perhaps helped exonerate him against the view and the opinion that he had treated Cecilia Dapaah with a violation of innocent until proven guilty. Because his conduct over the Cecilia Dapaah matter was heavily criticized by us, by Martin Amidu, by other people, that you are prejudging the matter because everybody is innocent until proven guilty. If in fact and indeed the OSP had this information that when he had questioned her about the source of the money in a preliminary interview, she had prevaricated, maybe people would have understood that, okay, if they ask you the money and you prevaricate and you don't seem to, then we have to hold it at least whilst we investigate. In that circumstance, if we are scoring innocent until proven guilty 1/10 as violations, you would have violated maybe only 2. Instead of what happened, where 10/10 you are violating 10. For that reason, I will treat this revelation from the office of the special prosecutor with a lot of hesitation. I will treat this revelation from the OSP with a lot of hesitation. I hesitate. Why didn't he tell us before? Why is he telling us now? Why didn't he apply this process by explaining so that he's exonerated of violating an important principle of criminal procedure, of which he is a master? I treat this with hesitation. But let's move on. Then he says also that as a result of that, he cannot be said to have not done the investigation, because as he tells the officer, as he tells the general public about the ruling, because the seizure of the assets, the property and all that, it actually helps the investigation. It comes before the investigation. The investigation does not come before it. That's what the OSP is telling the court. But the court says they have not done any investigation, and based on what that they seizing. And he says that the seizing of the money comes actually before the investigation. Right or wrong? The concern we have is not the OSP's attempt to seize the property or the money, because it's part of the OSP's laws. We're not complaining about OSP's efforts to seize the money. We're saying that do it according to the required and prescribed procedure. Do it devoid of a media charade. Do it according to the processes. Like what the Attorney General said, we'll come to you, we'll come again in the next paragraph to discuss what our main 3 themes of criticism are on the basis of the court's ruling against the OSP. We'll come to tell you that very shortly. But you saw that as the Attorney General did, he said, do this, do that, find the sources and all of that, the ownership of all of that. That's what you need to do. That's the reasonable thing to do. If you are treating innocent until proven guilty with respect and with seriousness and with a commitment to democracy, that's what you do. Find the source, and if the source is dubious, then we can seize it. After all, we know the money is there. We know whatever, we can find out whatever money is there. If we come tomorrow and there's a part of the money gone, we will still know, and there could be sanctions against that. But you don't go and seize the property and publish it and say, I discovered so much and the bank accounts have so much, and then you're always issuing statements to explain that I didn't say that and it's the media who said it, and I didn't say that's the media who said it. Now you issue a statement after a court ruling. You are making such a significant revelation, a revelation that you would have made so much that because of that we treat the revelation with hesitation. No. It's not right. It's not right, because we are building a democracy. We need to. The other day, Martin Amidu, of all people, was talking about the June 4th revolution and all of that. Talk of June 4th, may he rest in peace, Osahini Boachijan. I remember I had a very important conversation with Boachijan. It actually relates to our topic tonight. I'm going to talk about it now. When I started practicing as a journalist in those days, and I had conversations with Kuku Bako about the events of 1979 because of my own connection with Burma Camp. It's an event that stood in my head for quite a bit, and I still remember the graphics of coup d'etat after coup d'etat in those days in Burma Camp. And so I was talking to Kuku Bako about the executions of 1979, and by and large he was convinced that the people who were executed went through a certain legal process. I was convinced by what he said, and then later on I studied the matter. And I had a conversation with Osajin Bwasijan later on, and he made the same point, that the people who executed Achampo Akufo and all those guys were tried, went through a legal process at the place, Peduase Lodge. Then when I studied criminal law, I noticed that what we used to call the Criminal Code, which is now called the Criminal Offences Act. The Criminal Code, the prescription of the crimes in Ghana within this jurisdiction, is a code. So number 1, stealing; number 2, rape; number 3, that's a criminal code. It's called the Criminal Offences Act. It was Act 29 as amended now, Act 29. But Act 29 was passed together with Act 30. They were passed at the same time. So if you look at the memorandum that went to Parliament, which I've seen Speaker Olenu was chairing, it says that Parliament hereby passes Act 29 and Act 30. What is Act 30 then? Act 30 is the Criminal Procedure Code. That is, so Act 29 will tell you stealing is an offense. Act 30 will tell you to find stealing, you have to go through this procedure, that procedure, that procedure, that procedure. So 29 prescribes the offense, 30 prescribes the procedure by which you find the offense. Innocent until proven guilty, this, that, all of that is in the procedure. They passed it together. So then I told Wachijan that if you tried them through the laws of Ghana, did you use the procedure prescribed in Act 30 to try them? Because Act 29 prohibits the offenses, Act 30 tells you the procedure. Did you do that? And that's how we started having these conversations in those days, and he'll tell me that it was unworkable, and I'm telling him, no, you can't say it's unworkable. You are trying somebody for treason, that you staged the coup. Did you use the procedure of treason? In those trials, you didn't see who was trying you. They had some glass there. A champion is looking at a glass, and he can hear voices. What have you done? What have you done? That's where you don't see the person who's asking you the questions. That was a big kangaroo court. We've come from that history, a long history like that. One of the things we shouldn't violate is the protection of individuals against mob action, mob crime, soft mob, hard mob. To suggest that somebody has stolen money or all of that, something that can attract killing, everything, in a way that's in a flimsy manner, like sometimes what we see happen, and to be perpetrated by an important office like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it's a concern. It should be a concern. It is a concern. Anyway, let's now go to the 3 or 4 issues, the way we have outlined it, that we hold against the processes adopted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and some of which the court has endorsed. Let's go to those 3 or 4 issues. Let's do it now. So the real points that we built on paper here, what we observe against the OSP's conduct, some of which the court has confirmed. And I was telling you earlier that one of the decisions, parts of the decisions I liked most, was when the court actually said that the OSP was only relying on the Attorney General's work. That was truly exciting, because it's something that we have been saying here, isn't it? Okay, so this is what we think. They put it on the screen if they can, so we can read it together. When the OSP relied on the Attorney General's advice to the police to investigate, the OSP, the OSP, he forgot or he failed to observe that the Attorney General did not order the police to seize any cash or freeze any account. The Attorney General rather stated that there was the need for further investigation to establish the following: 1, the ownership of the money; 2, the source of the funds of the ownership. That is clearly the way to go. It's not to seize and rush to seize and freeze property. Viewers, I think you get the point we're making. This is our first most important point. When the Attorney General says seize, he says, he didn't say go and seize, he said investigate, find out. You have power to investigate. You can tell her that between now and this time, you can't touch this amount of money without telling us. You can tell the bank that she cannot touch this amount of money without telling us. She can, but you can't seize and publish that, oh, I've seized it as a personal property. No, you can't do that. But your power to investigate the funds gives you the authority to tell her that this is how we want you to manage your account. We want to know what is happening in the account from now on. Everything that happens, we must know before it happens, and we must permit some of them. You can't take cash beyond this point, beyond that point. That's what will be in keeping with the law, isn't it? That's what will be in keeping with the law, and that's what we say here, that the Attorney General didn't do that. The Attorney General didn't do that. Okay? And you can have an arrangement like that and even quietly go to court to enforce it. But that's the first point we have against the matter. Number 2, the condition precedent in his own act, the OSC's act, he failed to observe that he should investigate first for specific offenses and then charge for specific offenses. He did none of that and proceeded to seize and freeze the account. This is very, very arbitrary. We are not in a jungle. This is completely arbitrary. It's totally arbitrary. You can't do that. You can't do that in a democracy. We can't rule Ghana like that. And we are happy that today the court has confirmed, and the OSP is only coming to give us a statement in which he's making, for the first time, the most important revelation he has made in all of this Cecilia Dapaah matter, that she prevaricated when she was asked questions about sources of the income. But you ask a person who is 70 years old, who's been working for 50 years, sources of your income, an 82-year-old man, don't you give them a questionnaire? Don't you write a questionnaire for them and ask them to go home, think about it, call their bankers? Some of them, they've forgotten some of it, they don't know that call their children, call everyone. Is that not what you do? You come and tell us that you were talking to a 70-year-old woman about her 50 years of banking and how much money she has. And because you say she prevaricated, you were sure that the source of the money was dubious. That's a criminal lawyer talking. Very, very serious. Almost disingenuous. That's a criminal lawyer talking. That a 70-year-old woman who's worked for so long, and she's in front of you, and he say, in the circumstances of all the brouhaha, where you have conducted a media charade on her property, and in all of those circumstances that she's going through an entire global media bashing, and all her friends are calling her from all over the world, and her name is everywhere in the negative and in the red, in the circumstances like that, you sit before her, 70-year-old woman, and you say, where did you get this money from? And you telling us that she prevaricated. As a result of her prevarication in these circumstances, you were sure that the source of her money was dubious. That's very interesting. I don't know what people are going to say when the text messages roll out, but that is very, very, very interesting, isn't it, to say the least. I look at it with a lot of hesitation, as I keep saying. I look at this new revelation by the Office of the Prosecutor with a whole lot of hesitation. But it's time to end the report. This is a report from Paul Adomotri, reporting live from outside the studios. It's time to end the report, and then the program will continue in the studio as they get the text messages. And I'm watching here where I'm watching how people are reacting to it once the text messages starts rolling. Later this weekend, Manchester United will play Arsenal, and I don't know what Ibrahim Zebila wants to say about it. How are you, George Ado Jr.? One of these days we'll talk to you. Maybe at the beginning of the week we'll talk about it too. I'll be back in the studio for Tuesday's edition, but tonight's edition continues. I hand over now back to the studio, reporting live from outside.
Well, so people are asking you lots of questions, and we'll definitely get to the text messages, Paul. So for those of you watching us from wherever you're watching us from, if you're on Facebook as well, or you're watching us live on TV, that was Paul Adomotri from a remote position, bringing us the analysis of the ruling of the court. And I told you earlier on that Good Evening Ghana has been very consistent with our position on the operations of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And that's the analysis that Paul brought to you there. He's still watching, so if you have any concern or if you have an opinion, you may want to put it across. But I think our time may be up. We still will take your messages, the messages that are coming in. Let me go to Fatih and Antoinette quickly, and of course we'll come to Angelo.
Okay, this is coming from Rocky Osei Atta, and he says, it's not as if the OSP doesn't have power. Mind you, we are in a country which is governed by rule of law, so he is supposed to act accordingly, but not hearsay. Coming from Ade Elijah, he says, Apostle Paul has been vindicated. It's not about public sentiments, but the law. OSP must stop the media sensationalism and work. There are many files on your table untouched, but immediately you heard of Cecilia Dapaah, you just jump into it without proper investigation. Now see how you have been disgraced in the court of law. Coming from Ade Elijah again, he says, I now understand why Paul has been furious on this OSP and commending Martin Amidu. Lastly, from Frank says the OSP should have known better because of public opinion, propaganda, sentiment, political capitalism. How can the OSP follow the masses without these basic principles? That is facts, evidence, and law. Now, the lawyer, Cecilia Dapaah, and OSP have been subjected to public ridicule. They should do their homework very well before acting. Antoinette.
Okay. Very interesting comment. Let's listen to what Manuel Darko says. He says, instead of the special prosecutor to prepare his document and file for an appeal in the court of law, he is rather explaining his incompetence and seeking for appeal in the court of public opinion. Augustine Osare Donko says, it is very sad the way people who you think will know better sit on big platforms and prejudge matters such as this. We hurriedly accuse people wrongly without any verification or evidence. Let the truth be known to all of us. We wait patiently. Alhaji Bob Sidi has this to say. He says the oh no, it's not OPS, it's OSP, I think you're trying to say. So the OSP to Krawhai, he should avoid Martin Amidou's style of public opinion, sympathy, and prepare his document well. Court is court. The judges are smarter than how we all think. Nothing but evidence is needed in the court of law. The OSP should come again. Kofi Mensah Almin says, has the government or anybody reported that their money is stolen? Why harass Cecilia Dapaah if she has money in her house? Dash Sitcon says, all prosecutors most of the time fail in court due to lack of proper evidence. The OSP is not any different. You arrest someone simply because of public opinion's petition to you without any proper evidence, and now you are explaining to us again. Kichi Kansas says, good evening, Paul. Today you've taken us to a different dimension regarding your background. You give us great analysis always. Lastly, Kofi Opari Hagan says, the SP has graduated from a sorry grave looter to a comical puppet. Hey, please be more constructive in your criticisms. But he's trying to say, he says, dancing to fleeting emotions and risking the rights of suspects while at it. He is either incompetent or grossly naive, absolutely not fit for purpose. We pass any use by date. Okay, let me take Ken Abel. He says, I am sad that the good initiative of President Akufo-Addo to create the office of the Special Prosecutor to fight corruption has failed to live up to its expectations. All OSPs are giving us shoddy works within courts of public opinion and sensationalism without the law. So sad. Good job, Paul. Angelo?
Right, Drayskull says the OSP should spare us his frequent press releases and focus on its work. He can seek redress from the appeals court if he's dissatisfied. From Tama, Farouk says the special prosecutor, I think he speaks Akan, he says, he predid. Can't wait to listen to Paul's competent delivery. I'm sure you did listen to that and I hope you enjoyed it. This message is from Tabale Ahmed says, Paul, Adum Otri admonished you, the special prosecutor, but you still ran around everywhere seeking publicity and applause, disregarding advice, due process, rights of persons. Now you are ordered to return all seized money and thus giving room for conspiracy theorists and the violent groups to go after judges and the judicial system. Well, back to you, Akwesi.
Thank you very much for that, Angelo. And Gifty Nyako sent a message. Let me see if I can find it. She says, can we not find out when the monies were deposited? And she asked that Fatih somewhat looks like the wife of Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, and well, lots of other ones coming up. And the rest are greetings. But so Paul has been watching, and we are happy to be here tonight. Thank you very much for doing the watching as well. This one says, I should say good evening to you. Vincent Ofori is a political strategist with the New Patriotic Party. He's based in London. Good evening to you. Thank you for watching. And of course, the Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Mr. Kofi Ba Japan. Good evening to you as well. Good evening to you, everyone that sent us a text message, and everyone that's been watching us tonight. My name is Kwesi Efri, and I did this with my boss, Paul Adom Oche, from his remote position. I took the stage here in the studio tonight. Have a good night.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Has Christianity always been one of the religions in the world to you?
Oh, hallelujah. Praise God. Christianity is not a religion, neither is it a joining of a church and doing the Christian things like praying and giving and so on. Hallelujah. Christianity is the outworking of God's own kind of life received into the spirit of a man. Whoa! This divine life in the heart of a man makes him righteous, keeps him healthy, divinely guided in life, prosperous and victorious. It gives you the ability to enjoy intimate fellowship with the Father and have dominion on this earth. Hallelujah. This is what awaits you if you will wholeheartedly believe that Jesus is the Son of God raised from the dead and personally confess him as the Lord of your life. Glory to God.
Hallelujah. Join Dr. David Binder on the Good Life Devotion every Monday to Friday on this channel and receive truth that will usher you into exhibiting the divine life.